Hello everyone and welcome to my recommendations for the Steam Summer Sale 2024, and we've got everything from awesome indies to massive AAA titles available for a bargain. And our games today will be divided into three categories: games under £5, games under £10, and games over £10. And well, we've got a lot to get through, so let's jump straight in with games under £5. And we're going to kick off with one of the oldest games on today's list, and it's Fallout New Vegas. Now, I've been playing through this one again recently, of course inspired by the Prime Fallout show, and I have been having an absolute blast. New Vegas's graphics might be a little dated, but the world of the Mojave Wasteland and the stories you make and influence in it are still a ton of fun to play. For me, New Vegas is the best game of the modern Fallout series, and on sale at just £4.49 or $4.99, there's a ton of content here, and it's well worth the price. And hey, if you want more New Vegas, the Ultimate Edition with all the DLCs is available for just a couple of pounds more. Moving on to something a bit more modern, but no less dystopian, as we come to Disco Elysium: The Final Cut. This deep and thought-provoking RPG has you play as a detective with no memory of what he's doing, or even who he is, as he tries desperately to piece things together, all while attempting to solve a murder. Disco Elysium plunges you into a grimy and gritty world, and gives you meaningful choices to make, alongside plenty to explore and take in. This is one of those games where, when I reached the end, I immediately wanted to fire it back up for another playthrough. And for just £3.49 or $3.99, I think it's an absolute steal, especially as the price at the last Steam sale was more than double what it is now. Though just be aware that if you hate RNG, there is a lot of that here. Moving away from the dystopian to the chaotic multiplayer madness of Invisigun Reloaded. Invisigun requires you to not just figure out where your enemies are, but also where you are, as every character is invisible until they fire their weapon. And if you're like me, you'll be absolutely nowhere near where you thought you were. But that moment when you get it all right, when you know exactly where you are and you think one step ahead of your opponent to get off the game-winning shot, is just incredibly satisfying. Now, unfortunately, I can only really recommend this one if you have a group of friends to play with, as the community for Invisigun isn't the most active, so finding a game online will be tricky. But available for a mere 85p or 99 cents, Invisigun Reloaded is an excellent pickup. Civilization VI is next, and this turn-based grand strategy game sees you take control of an empire and build it up from nothing more than a single city patrolled by men with clubs to a global superpower, complete with thriving economy, military power, a dominant religion, and culture coming out of its ears. I personally really love the alternate history this game can provide, like France building Big Ben, a huge rivalry between Egypt and the Americans, or a fight where one side has modern tanks and the other has chariots. And with Civilization VII due for release next year, at £2.49 or $2.99, now is the perfect time to grab Civ VI. And from empire building to fast-paced, free-flowing action, as we come to Titanfall 2. This first-person shooter offers excellent movement mechanics, great gunplay, and not to mention the battlefield powerhouse Titans to blast your way through its campaign. And for me personally, it is the single-player element that's most worth your money here, as you work with your Titan to traverse a variety of maps and take out your enemies. And there's plenty of scope to use your Titan or play a more traditional style of first-person shooter, just with excellent movement mechanics. There is still also an alive and well multiplayer scene if that's more your style, but for me, like I said, it's the single player that makes it. Titanfall 2 is a great package and comes in at £4.99 or $5.99. Now, you will not find a more jarring change of pace than this one, as we go from the thrills and combat of Titanfall to the courtly romance of Love Letter. This multiplayer card game sees each player try to guess what cards the other players hold, and through deception and clever play, utilising the cards and abilities at their disposal, each player has to try and get their love letter into the hands of the princess. I know it all sounds a bit odd, but trust me, this is a great little card game, and especially when played with friends. So for just 88p or $1.04, love letter is a bargain. Frostpunk is next, a city builder with the twist of needing to survive the cold that has engulfed the planet. You are tasked with leading the last city on Earth, building shelter, scouting for resources, and making the tough decisions. And let me tell you now, when I say tough decisions, I mean it. Some of the paths you can go down in this game can be brutal, but those decisions need to be made. I love this one for the stories it creates through your decisions, and doing things like effectively making yourself a god king, protector of the truth, are the kind of stories that stick with you long after you finish playing. Frostpunk 2 is due out later this year, so if you want to get a taste of Frostpunk before diving into that one, at just £2.49 or $2.99, Frostpunk might be for you. On then to the Portal bundle, which nets you two of the best puzzle games ever made in Portal and Portal 2. The creativity and inventiveness of each new puzzle in these two manages to keep the game fresh for me from start to finish, and the puzzles are just hard enough that I get satisfaction from completing them, while also not stumping me for hours on end. Well, not often. So, if you're looking to give your grey matter a workout this summer sale, at just £1.28 or $1.48, the Portal bundle could be what you're looking for. Next up is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, a stunning looking game with plenty of intrigue and story to back it up. You play as Senua on a journey into hell to rescue the soul of her lover. Senua is constantly tormented by her own psychosis, voices in her head that tell her she will fail and to just give up. And honestly, having these voices whisper in your ear while you're playing, headphones recommended by the way, is one of the creepiest things I've ever experienced in gaming. Hellblade is unlike pretty much any other game I've ever played, apart from its sequel, and on sale at £2.49 or $2.99, I think it's an experience worth having. Now, I have always enjoyed the LEGO games and their humorous takes on the properties they adapt, and our next game is no exception, as we have LEGO The Lord of the Rings. Now, I picked this one because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and just playing through this adaptation put such a big smile on my face. The puzzles aren't too challenging and the combat can be a bit clunky and simplistic, but this game made me happy to play it. And therefore, to me, it's more than worth its £3.99 or $4.99 asking price. Well, we had a fast movement-based shooter earlier, so for those of you looking for something a bit more grounded and historically authentic, if not entirely accurate, we have Battlefield 1. This World War I shooter looks incredible even today, and offers some amazing large-scale battles to sink your teeth into. I was a bit critical of this one at launch for not having the same level of content as its predecessors, but going back to it more recently, it offers a tight experience with enough variety to keep you going for a very long time. For me, it's the multiplayer that's worth your time here, as I never saw the appeal of the single-player campaign, and fortunately there is still a good number of players active here to make finding a match easy enough. Battlefield 1 is on sale for £2.44 or $2.79. Drawing towards the end of the under £5 category, and we come to my third favourite game of all time. Yes, I've ranked them out properly now, because apparently I have too much free time. Anyway, it's Xcom 2, a turn-based strategy game that sees you controlling a squad of guerrilla fighters as they attempt to liberate Earth from the aliens that have taken over. The missions here are excellent, with enough threat at all times to leave you on edge, and craving the relative safety of full cover. There's also a base building element that will help you progress and gain power, offering up fun new tools to use against the aliens. And for me, the most important part, you can customize your characters and watch as they develop their backstories and their abilities. This gives you an attachment to them and means it's genuinely a blow if they don't make it back to base safely. Now, you could also pick up the War of the Chosen expansion, which adds a lot to the game. But if you just want to dip your toes into the water, the base game of Xcom 2 is an absolute steal at just £1.74 or $2.99. Outlast is next, which is the game that has probably scared me more than any other. Outlast sees you exploring an asylum with nothing to defend yourself aside from your night vision video camera and the ability to run. And I think it's this sense of defenselessness that really makes this a terrifying experience for me. If you could fight back, you might see that the enemies aren't too tough, but here, if you don't run or you don't hide, they will get you. Pair this with a disturbing story and you have the makings of a horror game not for the faint of heart. Outlast is on sale for £2.51 or $2.99. And we finish this section, as is tradition at this point, with Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And I know I talk about this one regularly, but it's a great game, and it's way too good of a deal to leave off a list like this. But I promise I will keep it brief. Mankind Divided sees you dropped into a world of fear and prejudice against people who have been technologically enhanced, with things like new limbs, social interaction enhancers, and swords in their arms. Which, I mean, fair enough, I'd probably be scared of that last one. Playing as Adam Jensen, you'll have to fight, stealth, or talk your way through this world, and that choice of how you play is what makes this game for me. And the augmentations you upgrade along the way can help you with whatever playstyle you choose. Deus Ex Mankind Divided is on sale for £3.74 or $4.49. First up in the under £10 category, we have Superhot, an FPS with the twist that time only moves when you move, meaning you can dodge bullets, plan out your moves, and execute some awesome maneuvers that will ultimately be played back in real time when you complete the level. The time-slowing element of Superhot makes each level feel like a puzzle, where your decisions and creativity are more important than just your raw reflexes and skill. Superhot is well worth a look and is on sale for £5.39 or $7.49. Next up, we have my favourite game of all time, as we come to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition. This immersive RPG offers a world full of monsters and quests around every corner. The world here feels alive, without the need for the player to influence it at all to get things started, but throughout the course of the story, the impact you have on everything from small family matters to the outcomes of world-spanning wars is immense. The base game of The Witcher 3 is on sale insanely cheap right now, but I still maintain that this is the better package, offering the Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine expansions alongside the base game, which add a ton of content, and coming in at just £8.74 or $12.49, I highly recommend picking up The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition. Nexomon Extinction is next, and if you're looking at the footage right now, you can probably already see exactly what this is. It's pretty much Pokemon on PC. But to be fair, it does actually make some pretty nice changes, like offering a much wider variety of starters to choose from, and also a pretty decent roster of monster designs, which really is where games like these either float or sink. Now, I had a few problems with Nexomon at launch, which can be found in my video at the time, but the devs made a lot of positive changes here, and what we have now is a really fun monster catching and battling game. So for £5.60 or $6.59, I think Nexomon Extinction is worth a look. Moving on, we have Shotgun King: The Final Checkmate, a roguelike chess game. I know that sounds a little odd, but Shotgun King ends up combining the planning and strategy of chess with upgrades and abilities that keep each new puzzle interesting. Knowing how to play chess does help here, as it allows you to know where the threats are going to be coming from, as pieces move the same way they do in chess. But in a pinch, lobbing a grenade into the scrum of enemies can make all the difference. Not a sentence you would typically hear in regular chess. And after a couple of runs, you'll pretty quickly pick up what you need to do. Shotgun King: The Final Checkmate is on sale for £6.29 or $6.99. Divinity Original Sin 2 is next, one of the best RPGs ever made. With a huge world to explore, tons of quests to take on, and a massive variety of awesome abilities and magic to choose from, there's plenty here to enjoy and to keep you going. Now, personally, I played through this one with friends and had a fantastic time, but there's plenty of fun to be had in single player, or even with the Game Master mode that lets you build your own campaigns for your friends to play. And as always, remember what I say every time I talk about this one. If during combat the entire map isn't on fire, you're doing it wrong. Divinity Original Sin 2 is a bargain at £8.99 or $13.49. Up next is Metro Exodus, a post-apocalyptic shooter that immerses you into a bleak landscape as you look to discover what happened to the world outside of the Moscow metro system. Immersive elements like the need to wear a gas mask outside, to change your filters, or even to wipe muck off your screen may seem a little tedious to some, but for me added to the experience, and alongside the solid combat, Metro Exodus is more than worthy of a recommendation. I did, however, feel like the stealth was a little bit mediocre, and there are stealth required sections, so just be aware of that going in. Metro Exodus is available in the sale for £5.29 or $5.99. Kingdom Come Deliverance is next, another one of those games with a sequel due soon. This medieval RPG sees you take control of Henry as he tries to piece his life back together and get revenge on those who killed his family. Kingdom Come goes a little strict in certain areas with its desire to be realistic, meaning it's basically required to eat and sleep regularly to make any progress, unlike some other RPGs where food and beds are almost an afterthought, and while there is a form of fast travel, it isn't without its perils. The combat here can be a little tricky, but is also very satisfying when you get it right, and with only a couple of difficulty spikes where you'll be asked to fight multiple enemies at the same time. I really enjoyed playing through this one and experiencing its story and its take on medieval life. Kingdom Come Deliverance is currently on sale for £5.29 or $5.99. Our penultimate game for the under £10 category is Inkulinati, and slightly clumsy name aside, what we have here is a deceptively tricky strategy game with a beautiful aesthetic and a whimsical style of humour. While the mechanics seem simple at first, it's important to think ahead in order to defeat your opponent, and movement and range quickly come into play. I have failed levels in this game more often than I care to admit, but it has that quality of wanting to try again and to put it right. So coming in at £8.79 or $9.99, Inkulinati might be worth a look. And finally, in the under £10 category, we have Valheim, an open world crafting game that sees you become a Viking warrior in a world of Norse mythology. You'll work your way up from simple leather armor and wooden tools and weapons to magic-infused items that give you the ability to survive the cold or suffer no fall damage, all while dealing significant pain to your enemies. Hell, since I last talked about Valheim, my character has become a damn necromancer with the ability to shoot fireballs. And it's this progression that keeps me hooked to Valheim. Whether it's new gear to craft, new biomes to explore, or new bosses to fight, there's always something to work towards in this one, and it makes for a great time with friends. Valheim is a bargain for £7.74 or $9.99. On then to our final category, and our first game over £10 is Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, anyone who knows me knows I love the Yakuza games. Yes, for the gritty stories, but also for the wacky and totally out there sub-stories and mini-games. And Like a Dragon delivers on all of that, while also changing up the combat system to be turn-based. Now, I'm sure some people will be put off by this, and I have to admit I was skeptical at first because I really enjoy the old Yakuza brawling. But the turn-based combat works really well in my opinion, and adds even more comedy to the game, with awesome moves like summoning a horde of pigeons to attack your enemy. Wait, flock of pigeons? Pack of pigeons? Whatever. Alongside that, there's plenty of awesome stuff to do, like a whole kart racing minigame. Now, if turn-based isn't your thing, I get it, and there's plenty of great beat-em-up Yakuza games to choose from, but for £10.99 or $11.99, I think Yakuza Like a Dragon is more than worth giving a try. Next, we have a bundle in the form of the Arkane 20th Anniversary Collection. This bundle nets you 6 games, including one of my favourite stealth games of all time in Dishonored, and in this case it's the Definitive Edition, which sees you sneaking through a plague-addled city, causing as much or as little chaos as you want. And yes, it does matter. And you also get the incredible horror-tinged immersive sim Prey, which has you aboard a space station overrun by alien entities, some of which can transform into everyday objects around you, so you never truly feel safe. Alongside these two, which for me are the highlights, you also bag Arx Fatalis, Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, and Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. And coming in at £15.78 or $20.03, I think it's a great deal. Hifi Rush is next, an unbelievably stylish rhythm combat game with a great sense of humour. Playing as Chai, you'll have to traverse a world and fight enemies, all to the beat of the music player in your chest. And while I personally thought I'd never get the hang of attacking on the beat, I'm really more of a button masher, it didn't take that long before I was timing my attacks and stringing together combos, and it's incredibly satisfying at the end of each fight to know not just that you won, but that you did it in style with a high rating. If you don't want to give Microsoft your money after closing down the studio that made this one, I don't blame you. But Hifi Rush is an incredible game, and for £16.19 or $17.99, I think it's worth your money. Almost there then as we come to Gloomhaven. This card-based take on a typical D&D style adventure changes up the strategies that you use, and I found leads to a lot more synergy between characters, as not just the abilities you choose, but the timing of them and the decision of whether or not to burn a card to use a really powerful skill matter. Now, this one is fun in single player, but is definitely best enjoyed with friends, and only controlling one character allows you to really get to know what they do well and when to use those powerful actions. I have heard a few experiences of people having technical difficulties with this one, but haven't come across any myself, so I just say that the Steam refund policy is your friend here, and to see how it works for you. Gloomhaven is on sale for £11.59 or $13.99. And finally, well, we've had my third and first favourite game of all time, so let's finish with my second, in the form of Persona 5 Royal. This one places you in the shoes of a Japanese school kid, as he makes friends in a new part of town, studies to get good grades, and he infiltrates the metaverse palaces of people with corrupted hearts to make them change their evil ways. And this bizarre blend of everyday life and the stunningly inventive worlds of the palaces that all feel so unique from each other is incredibly appealing to me, and what you do in one world affects the other, so you really do need to stay on top of both. The combat here is turn-based, and there's even a creature collection element to the game, as you can capture other personas and use their powers. I've made a full video on why I love this game so much that you can watch if you want to know more, because honestly I could talk about it all day. But what you need to know right now is that Persona 5 Royal is a sensational game with over 100 hours of content, and it's on sale now for £24.99 or $29.99. And that about does it for another Steam sale. As always, my main request to you is that if you have any suggestions that you think would help other people find great games, then let them know down in the comments. Of course, I haven't played every game out there, and even if I had, well, this video needs to be somewhat kept on track time-wise, so share your best finds and help other people out. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, click that like button and subscribe for more in the future. It really genuinely helps out a ton. Thank you so much for watching, have a great summer whatever you're doing, and I'll see you next time.